Hi, my name is Paul Doski. I am from Haunted, Vermont, and I've been doing this for almost 14 years now. And I like to collect stories. I sometimes go off and do solo investigations, which can be a bad thing or a good thing, but I do it in a safe way, and I try to do my best to not piss off any spirit. And until the next time, I guess that's it. Somebody can take over. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. I do my podcast, and that's about it, really. And right now, it's the slow season, so I'm trying to prep for my 2026 adventures. And I guess until at a later date, you can follow along at hauntedvermont.org for everything that I do.
I am Gabrielle, and I have been investigating probably since 2009. I started with a group in college, and I jumped back into it with Jody probably around 2019. And we have a podcast called Podcast of the Paranormal. You can find us at podcastoftheparanormal.com. What about you?
I'm here for the ride. No, I'm the editor. I'm the editor and the tech guy. Gabrielle brought me into this. I didn't think it was something that I was really going to enjoy at first, but taking over my life a little bit. So, as it does.
I'm Heather. Podcast is NVusAlien.com. It's NVus Alien. Oh my gosh, it's NVus Alien. But the website is NVusAlien.com. I've been investigating since 2006 or 7. I've written some books. I'm doing a documentary. I'm investigating, doing seances on top of buildings. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I paid him to do that. Go ahead.
No sponsorship.
I am Stephanie, and I co-host Heather's podcast. Sometimes we talk a lot about conspiracy theories and random topics, whatever comes up that we want to talk about. I pretty much learned all of my skills from Heather, and somehow I got pulled into this. Yeah, I don't know. I like the paranormal investigating part, and I'm a newbie. I've only been doing it a few years. I say a few years, it's 6 years now. But yeah, I don't know what else to say.
You would not classify that as a newbie.
No.
You're off.
Technically, in my experience, it ran when I was young, but I took it more of a serious approach in 2012. But really, it was just the experiences prior and some of the photos. Heather, you've seen one of the photos anyway, and
Yeah.
that's what kind of inspired me to really also see what the hell is out there in this crazy world that we live in.
Well, that's our next question is, what got you into the paranormal? And Stephanie, you can't blame me. Gotta find another answer.
Okay.
What got you guys into the paranormal?
What do you think?
I grew up in a haunted house. I was like 4 or 5, and I had a watcher spirit who would stand outside my bedroom, and he would just watch me. He seemed like he was like out of time, like he wasn't in the right clothing for the time. He did that for a few years, and then he went away, and there were some other spirits in the house throughout like the whole time I lived there. I don't think I've ever lived in a house that didn't have some type of activity. My mom was interested in the paranormal, and my grandmother was interested. Like, she used to watch Dark Shadows when I was a kid. So it's just always been a part of who I am.
I think for me, it was just when as a kid growing up, you grew up with the TV shows, and that's what you do. So it was a bunch of kids in the woods doing some dumb things, going to abandoned buildings. I read quite a few of them with some great local legends in the area. Should mention we're from the Northeast PA area.
Yeah.
But the thing that really got me into it was in Gabrielle in 2019. She noticed that there was a local group that was offering investigations at a pretty reasonable price. They'd rent the place out for the night, and they'd have 20, 30 people there, and they'd split up into groups. It was really organized. So I really attached to that, the organization that they had. 5 or 6 people splitting up into a different room. Where do you want to go first? Teams. And then they eventually started routing teams off at certain times throughout the night, time slots throughout the night. And I got really into it, and I learned some of the methods that they were using, the devices they were using. And at this point, when we started pulling a little team together, what really got us going was we saw a antlered shadow entity in the woods. And I think that's what kicked off the podcast, really. You want to take it a little further and then...
Yeah, it kind of helps change our perspective.
Yeah.
I can add in too that when I was young, I remember my dad kind of sharing some like interesting stories, like one about UFO, something about a UFO taking a cow or something, and something about a Bigfoot where it was like a private camp. And that's really all I can remember, besides the fact that the Bigfoot story was like it wasn't like your normal hunting cabin. It was like a 2-floor, almost looked like a regular house that you would see, but they called it the cabin. And I guess there was a tree outside, like a regular tree that you would see out on your sidewalk. Basically, it was like one of those, like a crab apple or whatever. And those are like 10 feet tall. Apparently, this dark figure was standing next to this tree, and it was almost about as tall as this tree was, but they couldn't see any details on it. They could just only see like the silhouette of it, because of the fact that they were inside with the lights on, so it created like that effect where you just saw this great big black blob, basically. But it almost acted like it was just standing there and almost like staring into it, almost observing what was going on into the cabin. That's about as much as I can remember from what my dad used to tell me.
When did I get into it? I got into it. It's a great question. I don't have the answer. When did I get into it? I've always been into the weird part of it, like space on Mars and like Egypt stuff and the pyramids and stuff like that. So I think it's just a natural progression that you move into ghosts. Yeah, that sounds right. And then, I don't know, I just started. I think really though, I don't know why. A lot of people say this. Like I was into it, or like I would do my own little investigations and play with things. But there's something happened when Ghost Hunters got on TV. Like it made it more serious or something. Or, oh, this is actually a valid hobby. This is not something that I'm just...
You get paid for.
Yeah, it's like not something I'm just made up in my head or something that I just do. I think I took myself more seriously after that. Like I took the whole idea of it more seriously. But yeah, I think it just, like I said, a natural progression of, ooh, weird stuff. I think I should look for ghosts now. And then it turns into fairies and goblin shadow people and whatever else shows up.
Well, I can just add to what you were saying real quick about Ghost Hunter. That's what me and my friend used to watch. And I think what we can also take away from Ghost Hunter, not only did it spark that I don't know a good term right now or a good word for this, but let's just say the topic of the paranormal, and made it say like, hey, if they can do this, we can do this too.
Yeah.
So it popularized it in a way, but it also helped with the idea that not everything is paranormal. It could be like squeaky pipes. It could be this and that. So not everything is a ghost. So I think that also helped, because I think that's why, like back when my buddy and I from his farmhouse, we started to basically try to debunk everything that we possibly could, as long as there was some sort of logic to it. But the night where we all moved around in the bed, there's no way you can debunk that, because basically the debunking would just be, if anybody got up in the bed, we would all feel it. No, there's no way to fake that. But none of us could feel us getting up and moving around, because otherwise either A, you're going to trip and fall, the covers is going to cover up somebody's face or something. Basically, either way, there's some sort of army crawl to the end of the bed, some sort of movement that's going to be like, hey, I know you moved last night, but when something like that happens, then you don't have an explanation. But that's what we used to do, though. We used to just debunk it, thanks to Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, I think it's natural to start there. I think everybody starts. For me, it wasn't really Ghost Hunters. It was Paranormal State. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Paranormal State, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's where it really started for me. That's where I started getting interested in the ghost stuff. And I didn't take it seriously at first. I really didn't. I was the one that... I tried to debunk it first, and here I am, years later.
Everything on Paranormal State was a demon, I swear.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yep.
What about you, Stephanie?
I've always been curious. There's always been an interest in the paranormal, but I didn't really focus on any of it. There's more the spiritual side of things. That's how I got into this, is more on the spiritual side. But I do remember that my older kids, when they were little, they used to watch some sort of show that was on demand. It was a Canadian show for kids, and they put kids in to haunted locations with all kinds of equipment and then just let them walk around to see what happened. And my kids used to watch that. But I never really watched any of the other paranormal shows. But I don't watch TV. It's more just playing and experimenting for me, just to see what will happen.
There was a show with Chip Coffey called Psychic Kids. Psychic Kids. Was that in it?
Mm-mm. No, they weren't psychic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that wasn't.
No.
Yeah, I remember that one that you're talking about, though, Heather. Yeah, that was with not Quiff. What is his name?
Chip Comfy.
Thank you. Yeah, Chip. I remember that one because he was the one that was mainly hosting that, because he was trying to teach the kids how to use the abilities while also shielding themselves from the world in a way.
Yeah, and that was a really popular show. But they did give him equipment and stuff. But I wonder, I'm curious about this show now.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up.
Charging my laptop, just in case you're wondering what I'm doing over here.
Ghost trackers.
Oh, I watch that show sometimes. I didn't watch it a lot, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Taylor was totally into it. He would sit
forgot
there
about
and
that
watch
show.
it all the time.
Wow. Okay, now you're bringing stuff back. Be right back. I'm gonna charge. I'm plugged in this charger.
So what's everybody else been doing this weekend? Anything exciting?
Oh, nothing exciting. No, it's that time of year
Yeah.
in between seasons.
What's coming? So you're just trying to conserve energy.
Honestly, between October and through January,
Yeah.
we just didn't stop. Just between the holidays and trips, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed the downtime.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
We had a birthday party.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had a birthday party, huh?
Nice.
Bunch of 10-year-old boys. Exciting.
A lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy.
I can actually chime in real quick, Heather, to your comment about being interested with Egypt, actually. So that was my thing too with school. Like anytime I got to learn about the Egyptians and the weird history of how the pyramids were made and being mummified and all that. And then come to find out that 47, I would say 50 minutes just to be on the safe side, but 50 minutes from where I am currently right now, there's a cemetery in Middlebury that is a grave for an Egyptian baby here in Vermont.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so the story is this old collector bought this baby's mummy, and then he had it brought to New York or something, and then he brought it to be in the museum to be displayed or something, but because of the fact that it got ruined from the ship, go figure, that he stuffed it up in the attic and forgot about it. So anyway, this guy passes away. So then the new owner of the house, or however the story goes, basically finds the mummy's body. And originally, they were going to just throw him away in the garbage. That was the idea. And so the town was just like, how about we just cremate him and just bury him? And so that's what they did.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
freaking-
But he was the son of a king from Egypt. And I was just nice with almost throw away a dead person kid that is remained, but not just that, but a king's like dead son, like a king of Pharaoh, basically. Yeah, that doesn't say would put a curse on you or nothing.
I know, right?
The downside to this though is I haven't even shared this really. Well, I have and then I haven't. But so anyway, in 2022, I wanted to make some videos for the 10th anniversary for Haunted Vermont, and he was one of them because I just thought it was really interesting that we had an Egyptian baby. But anyway, in the video, I said, because of the stone being so old, maybe we could get like a new plaque or some sort of stone to help represent the kid. Because if we're going to literally have this ashes of an Egyptian person, baby, over here where it shouldn't even belong, then maybe we should, I don't know, maybe make sure he's not forgotten, which is what Middlebury was trying to actually do. We're trying to make it so that he was forgotten, which I thought was stupid. So anyway, long story goes into, I found this group that's supposedly supposed to be one of the best cemetery group people, whatever, yada yada. Tried to reach out to them about this grave. Long story short, within 2 hours, I was banned from the group for no reason. And come to find out that a year later, that this baby's grave had been taken down and remade. Only problem is that's not what I was trying to ask. I wasn't trying to get the original stone gone. I was only trying to like a veteran. They have a little plaque or something. That's all I wanted. Just to be like, hey, this is who's here because it's so old you couldn't really read it that well. Unless you got like that really good lighting. But what was cool about the old stone was there were some Egyptian symbols within it. And there was even like a Christian cross, obviously. But that was just because of the fact that the people wanted that there kind of thing. But they still respected the Egyptian thing with the two other symbols. So again, with this new stone, or slab, should I say, they completely took away the symbol. So all it just says is the baby's name, basically like his ashes is buried here, basically. Yeah. And I only know about this was because one of my followers had reached out to me and said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but the stone for this kid that you're talking about, or baby that you're talking about, is gone. And I'm like, what? And looked at my other half, and I was just like, for my family, and I was just like, next time we go to Middlebury, we need to check this out. We need to get this sorted to make sure what the hell is going on. And that's when I saw the new stone or the new slab. So it's not even, I don't know. I thought it was I think they should have left the old stone and just made like a plaque or a smaller slab that basically says like what they have now, but without taking away the original stone that's been there for ages. And yeah, I don't know. It just bummed me out because if it wasn't for the fact that I was banned by this group, I don't think the old stone would have been taken out, but God forbid, for whatever reason, I was banned just for asking about this. And that's all. It was just, hey, could we maybe do this? And then I was banned. Yeah.
This crazy story.
Yep.
Way to get yourself banned.
I know. Who else is banned? Who else has been banned?
Yeah.
Raise your hand. That's hilarious. One of the questions that I was going to ask is, okay, so I remember 2007, 2006, I think is when Ghost Hunters came on. And there was a huge deal. Huge. It was like the thing that everybody talked about was, is it only equipment or do psychics have a place in the paranormal? Do you remember this? This was a thing. I remember like only the chick can deduce whether or not there's paranormal activity. Oh, forget the whole aspect of like spiritualism. We'll just knock that right out. Now, by and large, most mediums were women. So we'll just make it a patriarchal bullshit thing. And I remember being a psychic investigator going, huh? because that's all I really knew. How do you feel about it now? Do you think that there's still a like divide between like psychic paranormal investigators and tech investigators or skeptics? Or do you think in the last 20 years we've stopped being skeptic? There's my opinion on it.
Yeah. I think the line is, I think it's also blending together. If you ask me, yeah, I think it's a combination of tech and psychology. That's where the psychic part comes in, I think. I think you're using a combination of ITC devices and your brain basically is blending this stuff together. So it's almost like I see a lot of techno psychics now. When you think about things like the Estes method, the Gonsfeld experiment, stuff like that. From the traditional sense of psychics, I honestly, where did you get started in that?
You asking me directly?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, because that's out of my wheelhouse.
So when I started, I didn't use equipment at all, ever. I had a video camera and an audio recorder, and I would talk into the audio recorder, but usually I just heard the answer in my head, and then I would just use the audio recorder as verification. But see, like, even this weekend, when we were investigating, I saw so many people with dowsing rods, which I was like, oh, when did that become like okay? Because I used to use dowsing rods all the time, and I used to get total flack for it. Oh, you can't do that. That's some folklore superstition bullshit. You know what I mean? And like, I also used to use tarot cards. People thought that was like, whoa,
That's the devil.
Yeah.
yeah. I think I'm asking the question is because I just wonder, do we still have that sort of? Because there are a lot of techno bros out there. Let's face it. Every day we have a new spirit box, or we have a new like. Even this weekend, like I said, there were so many tech bros out there with this new device that I created. I'm like, good for you.
Now,
Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, not just that, but one of the, I don't know how new it is, but for me, it seems even with your phones nowadays, there's a new ghost app or some sort of app now. And I just got a quick story I can share. I can vouch with this, but I'm skeptical when it comes to the apps and that type of stuff. But like last year, friend of mine now, but at the time he had been on my podcast because he had a story to share about this app and what he had captured in a place that I have been to, like at the time of last year. It would have been 12 years from 2025. But anyway, so the point to this is I was just like, oh, you're trying to get into it. I can show you a couple cool places that you've never heard of. And yeah, long story short, went to this particular cemetery and he had his app on and it started to say stuff that was very interesting to me. And at the time I did not record it because unfortunately it was raining. So I wish it was, but he at least sent me some screenshots of what this app had said, just so I could have it for the backup of the post that I had made later on, which was, again, interesting because some of the stuff that came through this app, now this is where I get skeptical about it. Did this app actually know what the hell was actually in the cemetery prior? Did it get some sort of data or something? Or did this thing really legitimately get somebody basically talking through this app, picking out certain words? And that's where I try to get into this, like, well, is it real or fake? I did try to reach out to the company, actually, that made this particular app, but, of course, no avail, never heard back. But I just thought interesting because, just to share real quick, and after this is all said and done, I will send you guys the post that I had made, so you can actually see the research that I did, how, like, the validations of photos that I had taken just to prove some of the stuff that this app has said. But just to give you some examples for this little segment right here, we ended up getting a name, which was Teresa. I'm going to butcher the last name right now, but we didn't get a last name at the time. And I only been to this particular cemetery because it has a grave with a window in it. That's what this cemetery is known for, because this guy was buried there because he was afraid of being buried alive, basically. So he made like this huge plot, I'll just say, or lot, whatever. And he basically made it so that he had furniture down there, a hammer with a window at the top of his grave so he could smash it to yell out for help if he were to awaken if he was buried. Anyway, long story short, there was some other response there that came through, like angel, blacksmith, table, stuff like that. Stuff that I didn't really think of because, again, I just knew where this grave was and didn't really take the time to walk through this whole cemetery ever, really, just to see what else is there. But so anyway, what was interesting is for the table. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but this, I put it in my head when I saw it afterwards, was that there was a table in this particular cemetery, but it was like a gravestone, but it was laid out like a table because it was big, and I'm assuming it was just because it fell down and they didn't want to stand it back up to possibly fall over again and break, is what I'm assuming. Anyway, so that's when we were like, okay, maybe this is what it means by table. Blacksmith, I found out the next day after I went back with my lady and stuff, so see if she could help me, point me into maybe trying to find this Teresa that showed up. So we ended up finding a grave that had a blacksmith anvil on it. I think that's how you pronounce that, which I thought was interesting. We found an angel of like the small little statue of an angel at a grave. So we're just like, maybe that's what they mean by angel. Come to find out though, this Teresa, also, if this was the same still person, was wondering if we could see her. And the response actually came through saying, "Am I dead?" And I was just like, oh boy. And what I think of putting this together after doing my research, which is, I don't think Teresa realized she had died, because when I tried looking for her death certificate, I could not find it. There's no record online or anything like at all about any sort of death certificate for this lady. And what I find interesting is that she died at the age of 19 on January 1918 something. I can't think off the top of my head. But her husband at the time died a few years after she did, and he died from tuberculosis. And he was like 26, I think. So it's very interesting. So again, it just makes me question that app, but also at the same time, it was just like, man, that's pretty spot on with how accurate this is. There was some other funny responses too, but I'll save that for the post. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
I don't hear him saying, I feel like psychic ability is legit, but then I question apps. So I'm like, okay, but it kind of goes, like one kind of goes into the other in my mind. Are you influencing the app, or is the app just pre-programmed? You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I've been wondering. And to touch on your question now, Heather, I don't know. I feel like some psychics get a bad rap, and then there's some where they are probably just in it for the dough, I'll just say, like the one that probably researched beforehand to be like, yes, I know this much. They try to fake their way into it, whereas that's what's making the bad rap for the one that actually take it more serious, because they are the real one, if I can say that. Kind of like you, Heather. Anyway, how often now do we even hear about the police even using psychics for a missing person, or something like that? I feel like, for me anyway, it's been a while. I don't know how much you guys have heard of that around your area, but I know for somebody like me in the Northeast, further here, I can't really say that I've heard anything recent when it comes to the police using like a medium or something for assistance or some type of way to get a clue or something. But otherwise, I feel like, yes, there is people that are legit, and then there's some where you might want a second opinion. And I'm going to have a cat showing up.
All right.
That's all right. If you see Gabrielle looking over here to the right every so often, that's what's going on.
Can't.
Oh, yeah. We have one of those too.
To answer the psychic question, I feel like you have to go all the way back to spiritualism, because I feel like that's what you have to do for all of this, right? Go back to when this started. And when you think about what a psychic was, what a medium was during spiritualism, they all were coming out and being found to be fraudulent. And I feel like that stain follows psychic mediums now, even into the present. And I don't know how we overcome that stigma and help people understand that there really is value in using someone who genuinely has these abilities. Because I agree with Paul, there are people who just try to take advantage, and still, just like they were back in the Victorian time, there are people that will take advantage, but there are people who genuinely have these gifts.
Yeah, there's bad actors in every.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always look at it as I never consider myself psychic. I will never consider myself psychic. It's not that I don't believe in that stuff. It's just I don't think it fits for me. But I have started paying attention to that. I guess we'll call it a sixth sense, if you will, when we're on investigations. We were at an investigation and we were there pretty much the whole night. We weren't getting much. I shouldn't say that. We got some pretty neat EVPs, but it wasn't until I said, something's really interesting with those stairs over there for me. I don't know what it is. There's a draw to it. And as soon as we started investigating the stairway, that's when we started getting hits. So I think there's something going on there. I think all humans have that ability to sense something. It's just whether or not you're willing to pay attention to it. And it's like anything else. It's like riding a bike. You have to learn it. If that's something you want to pursue, it's something you have to learn.
And then that's the problem nowadays. And I'll touch on that too just for a second, is when I talked to Heather for a podcast with her about the weird picture that my buddy took when I asked him to take a picture of me, basically, I could almost sense something. And I was just like, hey, can you take a picture more my left, his right? And this thing came up in the picture. What I find interesting nowadays is when I go to a place, I almost feel like I don't want to say I'm less sensitive, but it does feel like that way. And I don't know if that's just because there's way too much technology, cell phone crap waves. Maybe that would be what it is, but something feels like it's blocking your vibration, your frequency to really fully allow yourself to commit to it, I think. And because I do think everybody has that sixth sense of being able to sense something, because even back in 2013 when I was filming for the first time of acting in a short film kind of thing, we were actually at a legit haunted place during the day. But there was one moment where I was in the building by myself and I turned around and it looked like in this place, it almost seemed like the little kid legs and feet were forming in front of me. Almost like this little girl was wearing, I say little girl because that's what it looked like to me. Because, especially with the way the old shoes with the buckle. I don't know what you call that anymore. But like the little shoe that kind of had that buckle. That's what it looked like to me that I was seeing. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go back down there. Yeah, whatever's going on here. I'm not in the mood for this right now kind of thing. But I just feel like after being around so much technology, maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is maybe it's affecting my vibration too much. And that's why sometimes, like when we were talking before this, you know, you were mentioning sometimes like taking a break or the downtime is like the best time to relax. And I totally agree, because otherwise you need to recenter yourself, because otherwise pretty soon everything's going to be paranormal to you. Every little sound and you don't want to get to that point. Like I did. I got to that point and I had to back off for 2 years because it was just that bad. And then when I finally rebalanced myself, that's when I wanted to come back. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way the vibrational frequencies of the world had changed, especially with, like I said, all the technology and cell phone waves. Because with 2000, yeah, I would say like 2011 would still be like the flip phone era. It wasn't like what we have now for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on that.
What do you think, Seth?
I don't know.
Okay.
'Cause, yeah, I started 2020. So and when I started investigating, it was with you, Heather. So we always used the psychic component. It wasn't just all tech. So I don't really have any comparison to not having that as a component.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I don't really either. I was just thinking about it because, okay, so yesterday we did a seance. Okay. We didn't have any tech on the table. It was just literally like channeling, right? It was everybody just like tuning into the energy and then moving the energy. And then whatever we came up with, we came up with. And it was just so interesting because then the dichotomy of that was when we started the investigation, like the official investigation. So we have all these people on all these floors, right? And I sat there and I was like, it's so weird. It's just freaking blinky lights. We have K2s and we have ghost meters, which I use, but then we have those long strings of, I don't know, they're long trip wires.
Always malfunction, the trip wires.
Yeah, the trip wires. And then we have the octopus, I think it's called, with the
Yep.
we have those on the floor, and we have these little bells that go ding. They're EMF detectors.
Yeah.
So we have that going on, and then
How many REM pods?
we had so many REM pods. Oh my god, it was like a REM pods, and then on top of that, there's what else was there? Ghost tube is the one that everybody uses, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's got their ghost tube on, and then on top of that, then there's these grids everywhere. These people have the green grids everywhere, and so everywhere, like every floor I went there, in every room, they were like all, and I was just like,
sensory overload.
yeah, I was like, it's just really necessary because, like, for me, the best investigation that I had all weekend at this paranormal conference thing was the one where it was me, 3 other people in a room. We had a recorder, a ghost meter, and EMF. That's it.
Yeah.
And we just sat in the middle of the room with the lights off. Somebody put the grid on the wall eventually, but we didn't actually use it. I liked just to meditate on. We were using it like a sky. We weren't actually like using it. And we all just sitting on the floor, just, hey, what's up? Do you want to talk to us? Eventually, we put on a spirit box, but then we turned off the spirit box like right away because this isn't working. But the most activity we got was just the blinky lights on the K2. 1 for yes, 2 for no kind of thing. And we got most of our information that way. And it was just so like confusing for me because then we went down to another floor and like those octopus things were all over the floor. With the K2 meters, there was a K2 meter on every table, octopus on the floor, and then like more ghost meters and stuff. I thought it was just like, is this necessary? I don't even know. I don't know. Is that spirit communication? Is it? Who are we really talking to? So that's why I wonder, because it just feels, to me anyway, it feels like tech takes over and we lose the ability for the critical thinking and for the like feeling into our body and going, is this real? Because just because the dingy ding dings doesn't mean anything. Just because the K2 goes off doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, that's a thing that drives us nuts, honestly, when you're in public investigations and people are walking around with a K2 meter like it's that thing from Ghostbusters, the
You're talking about,
the Y that would go up with it.
We did a public investigation with the local group that we have.
Yeah.
And they had like some celebrity guests. So we wanted to go to investigate with them. And so we had got a group with 2 people. They were a couple as well. They had 2 robots. It was such a difficult night. We couldn't really enjoy ourselves because everything we were doing, this guy is off in the corner with these robots.
And they chat the whole time. They're talking.
Like little Furbies. And they're moving. They're like hitting things, bumping into people. He's admitting he doesn't even know how to use them. And then he's at a point where he's saying he's getting contact from the spirit because the things, what were they doing?
They were moving on their own, but
yes, they were like reacting till you get too close and they move away from you. Like it was, oh my God, it was so difficult.
If it's IR or if it's light activated, like there's cars driving by, there could be shadows being tossed all over the room. Those things could be falling shadows around. So it's just, they didn't know how to use them because they didn't know how they work. I think if you're going to use a piece of kit, you have to know how it works. The K2, we use those to find electrical issues in buildings. That's what we use them for most of the time. If we're seeing it ping off like crazy, I'm walking around the room and I'm looking and trying to move around the room and figure out where the Wi-Fi router is or like the Wi-Fi node or bad wiring or something like that. And a lot of the times it's just, there's high voltage wiring for a air conditioner with the air conditioner kicking on and off, and that's what you get.
Yeah, that night, oh my God.
See a little triggered there, huh?
We had to, there were like, with this group, like he had mentioned, you will rotate, right, throughout the different like areas that you're investigating. So there was one room that was large enough that we could separate ourselves from them and be on like one portion of the room, and they were by themselves playing with their robots they didn't even know how to use. And we were just like, oh my God, I can't, this needs to end. This needs to end. And then we're in with the group, because there's times where like the group is with you and they're trying to do like an audio, like EVP recording. And this guy has the robots in the corner making noise. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. This cannot end quick enough.
Yeah, you have that.
You might as well throw out that voice recorder then, because everything will be contaminated. Robot.
Yeah, I wonder how much of what people think they got over the weekend is actually just air conditioning or lights going on and off, or just people kicking them or moving them.
Yeah.
And the cat balls too. I love me some cat balls. I do.
Oh yeah, us too.
But you got to place some places where people aren't kicking them. So yeah, I don't know. There was a couple of KTs where they would just not shut up, and they were on the floor, and I'm like, that's not fair communication. That's something else. It has to be.
Yep.
There's got to be something that we're not. The people are like, oh my God, it just means that the spirit is talking more, and I'm like, I don't think so. If it's that consistent, then it has to be something else. Or the people that wave them in the air. I love that. That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem with the field in general, is there is no standard for how to investigate. There is no protocol. There is no manual for this. People are going in, they're experiencing it, they're growing in their knowledge through the actual experience. But there is no like base on this is what to do. This is how to use, this is how to use that. Yes. This is when to use this, and this is when to use that. And people are just doing what they're seeing on TV. And you're running into these problems where people are just, that could be people's first investigation.
Yeah.
They've never used the equipment before.
And the thing is too, for rule number 1, when you start an investigation, cell phone's in airplane mode. I tell people that all the time because that is going to set off every blinky device that you're laying out.
Yeah.
Yep. I can try to counter that EMF argument too. That's why even when I was doing my old investigations with the group that I had before going solo, we mainly focused more on like outdoor stuff like cemeteries or whatever. Something that we could basically say there should be absolutely no electrical anything here. And unless it's just one of our flashlights or something, just
the Loch Ness Monster.
Unless it's one of our equipment setting it off, basically. And there was a one point during the Hubbardton Battlefield Cemetery part where the EMF was going off, like flashy flash. And I remember, like, in the video, I'm like, whoa, dude, did you see that? And it's just, we tested all this out before even recording. Now we're going to show it on video where it's not my flashlight and I'm dangling it near it or something. I'm even having my friend who has my digital camera or a digital camera try to, like, take a picture and even hold down the button so that it focuses or whatever you want to call that before you actually take the shot, just to show the person watching the video later, like, what are we showing you? This is not us setting this off. Especially since it's a cemetery, there should absolutely be no electricity unless it may be underground, but most of the time you're not going to have electricity. So that's what we even did back then. So I guess my take is, what do you guys think about that, using like an EMF like outside to try to say, there should be. Yep, go ahead.
We do that. We have, whenever we use the K2, it's usually to take a baseline to see if the room's going crazy or not. If it's going crazy right in the beginning, it's probably something in the room. But your thing with the outdoor stuff, that's interesting too, because we have a place that we go to and we've had some hits there, and there's nothing near, there's no electricity. You're out in the middle of the woods. There's nothing there. There's nothing running under the ground that we know of. There shouldn't be anything running there. There shouldn't be power lines there. It's all poles there. But yeah, we've had a REM pod go off. Again, I don't even own a REM pod. This is a friend's REM pod, and this started going off right in the middle of an Estes session outside. And we've had hits on the K2 on a rock, just sitting on a rock for no reason. There's a stream nearby and all that. But you're in an area where you're not expecting it, and it happens. What is that? You know, I'm not saying it's something. It could be something with like some kind of geomagnetic anomaly, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit more. Maybe if you guys had this happen in your end, there's a time where, like, I have the EMF light that you guys are talking about and the Mel gas, the Melly gas, whatever.
Yeah.
And one thing when I was first beginning to learn all this stuff too, is I had a good friend of mine who started a group back in 2004. So he was like my mentor at the early years too. And he was telling me what you should do with your EMF is, if you get a spike or you get something, follow it. See if it go down to the ground, see if it goes up into the sky, left. And that's what I started to even do. An example I can give, I actually have a video of this. I like you, I don't know what to think of this. And that is, at one specific cemetery, it was weird. It was like, it looked like I had some sort of spike or something, we'll just say. And as I'm following it, it's going higher and higher and higher. And then it drops. And then it comes back and drops, kind of thing. And normally, if it starts to drop, like I say, I try to follow it, see if it's moving or just whatever. It brought me to this weird spot in the cemetery, almost like near the hill, and going back down like toward the road near like the houses or whatever. And that's why I say I don't know if it's underground, because it's that weird, and I don't know what it was, if it could have been something underground or not. So I don't know if you guys had anything like that, what you were saying with the rock. So
yeah, I mean, we just, honestly, our blinky lights devices, we use those to debunk half the time. No, not even half the time anymore. Most of the time now.
Yeah, we barely even use them. The only thing we really use are like the balls, the motion balls, the cat
I
balls.
love the cat balls.
Cat balls are the greatest ever.
They really are.
They are. And they're getting like,
Yeah,
they're getting controversy now. People are saying the wires in them will react to severe cold and severe heat and create the ball. Yeah, like fluctuations, and create the balls like activating for no reason.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
So that's when you put them on little stands so they don't move.
Yes.
If you put them on a little stand, they're not going to move and they're not going to do anything, and you can keep them in a nice cool place.
Did you ever have one actually move?
I've never had one actually move.
Yeah.
It's lighting up. Oh, and it's moving. It's rocking. That's weird. I think we charged the room with the Tesla coil at the right before that too, right?
I think, yeah.
Which I think differently about that now too. So I could go into that if you want, but I think high energy is too much. I'm on the low EMF, setting the baseline in the room thing now.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I like Tesla coils.
Stop feeding it.
So that brings me to our next question: is how do you? And I'm curious to know, Stephanie, because you're like very psychic, right? So you feel things, but like, how do you know when it's actual real activity? Is there a tell for you?
That's a good question. And actually, what you're talking about with the EMF. So I did an investigation at a hotel in Oklahoma City, and it made the news because there was an NBA team that stayed there and performed horribly in their game the next day. And they claimed that the rooms were haunted, and that's why they did bad. There's a lot of people that go there and investigate now. So my family wanted to go investigate. So we went there, and I remember getting off the elevator, and it felt weird. I'm like, okay, this isn't right. There's something going on here. Well, then we got into the room, pull out the stuff. I had the K2, set it in the middle, and it just goes off. Like, it didn't matter where it was, it's going off. So I'm like, okay, there's something going on. There's some sort of electrical issue in this hotel. So automatically I'm like, okay, there's nothing haunted here. All it is electrical frequencies messing with people. So I think that's when tech becomes important, because you can use your senses and be like, okay, something's off here. So now let's see if that's true or that's accurate. So other than that,
I think some people are sensitive to EMF. They really do. And it brings up a good point too, because if you could test your abilities by, if you're feeling that and maybe you're getting activity, pull out the meter and see how that correlates to what you're getting, how that would work, the logistics of that. But
I think to answer the question too, for me, I have one of two things happen. I either get my fight or flight activated, and I'm starting to say, we need to go, we need to go, we need to leave. Or I will have thoughts that aren't my thoughts. And that's one of two ways that I know that there is some like real activity there.
Now I want to counteract what you just said. How would you know it's not your thought though? How would you describe that?
Because I know it's not something that I would normally do. It actually started on my first investigation when I was in college. We did urban legend nights, we would call it. And we would go to a few groups, we'd go to a couple different locations. We'd pick the most active location of the night, and we'd go back there with anybody that was remaining at 3 a.m. So that was actually the first time it happened. I was just like the whole night, I would go to everywhere there were people. If we were in a group and we were broken up, and I would just keep trying to convince everyone that we had to go. We need to leave. We're not wanted here, and we need to leave. And when I start getting like that, I'm like, okay, something is telling me that we need to leave.
I could vouch for that too, because when she gets into flight mode, a lot of the times that's when activity starts popping off. Like, we're getting physical things that we're seeing, like in the environment. We see lights in the woods and stuff like that. And the more fearful she gets and the more that she wants to leave, the more that activity picks up.
Yeah.
So how quick, I guess, for lack of, is by the time she's feeling that, let's just say, like, is it a minute or so later that's when, I don't know, some sort of activity kind of spikes? Or like, how quickly does it start to seem to spike up or ramp up?
It's all happening at the same time. It's happening in tandem with her wanting to leave. And the thing is too, is it makes other people on the team feel weird. Like, we start picking up on it. We start getting freaked out by it. So we learn to trust it and say, hey, maybe it is time to leave, especially in the outdoor locations.
Oh, yes.
I feel like those, you don't really know what you're dealing with. I don't always think it's spirits. I think it's something that has been there, that has always been there, that's like a guardian type.
entity, and I think they're really good at letting you know when it's time to leave. So I trust her when her little sense goes off there.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll force me to push through it.
We tried.
And like the first night that we had gone to our local spot, that was the night that we saw the shadow. And then now when we go and they like force me to push through, and then things will start happening and it'll start to amp up to when we saw the shadow. And I'll be like, we gotta go. It's getting closer. I don't want to see it again. We gotta go.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I guess in a way I could say it's like a delay, like how much of a delay is there between feeling it to then having it go on, I guess would be the appropriate way of looking at it.
It could be immediate, or it could be like 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's about as long as you roll.
Yeah.
I guess it all depends on the environment, really, and where you're at to really say the least of how quickly it can respond to your body.
And I also, too, like, I realize how that sounds saying it out loud. Like, it almost sounds like poltergeist activity, right?
In a way, yes.
You're in the woods.
It does. But, like, it really only happens to me. It's only happened to me in 2 locations. 2.
Yeah.
I do get a feeling like that as well. So I know when activity is about to happen, I feel the ramp up. Like fully, I go, what, something's going to happen. And then usually within 2 or 3 minutes, something happens and I can feel it. And I know that feeling of go away or run or whatever. I tend to override it though. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So maybe the part of my brain that is fearful of those things is broken or something. Because even out in the woods, like sometimes I know things are tracking me. Sometimes I do see the big thing in the corner of my eye. But I'm like, I'm just going to stand here. Which will always be sense of me. But now that I'm thinking about it, but there is, I don't know why. Even I've been places where people have died and they're like, you can feel it. And you're like, you feel their last breath or whatever. And I do get into that fight or flight because I'm like, oh my God, that's just too creepy. But I don't know. I tend to just go, okay, and sit in it. But to answer my own question, I know how to use all the tech. I got it. But I know I do a ton of research on ITC, so I'm a nerd about it. But at the end of the day, if I don't feel it in my body, or if I don't feel it in some way, shape, or form, then I always negate it. Unless something's being thrown at me, or not, or something's moving in the room, if it's just a blinky light, or a ghost box saying something, if I'm not feeling it, or if I'm not experiencing it in my person, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if it's real or not.
The reason why, if I can just cut in for a minute, the reason why I just ask about the, like, how long either after or maybe during you guys are feeling this is because I don't know how often you guys have captured it for EVP, but there's been moments, even when I'm using the spirit box back in the day, where there's a response that comes either through the voice recorder or something, but it almost seems like the answer to what you're about to say.
Oh, yeah. No, we've experienced that. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I would bring it up. So if you're starting to feel it, is it like a couple seconds before it actually happens, or is it like you put it, it's sometimes during it? Because it's interesting that sometimes we can get like a response to whatever we are about to ask. And it's just, how did you know we were just about to ask that? Like that theory. It's almost like the universe already knows.
And it makes me think, too, is it that, like, part of our brain, like our lizard brain, that used to have to be alert to predators that we don't really need anymore because we have houses, we have lighting at night. Like, we don't have to worry about predators at night, but that part of our brain is somehow being activated when we're in these situations and sensing these spirits, whatever type of entities are out there, are they sensing them as threats to us? And activating our fight or flight system like it would have if we were cavemen sleeping in our cave at night.
It's more predictive than reactive.
Yeah, it is.
Your lizard brain, yeah. So that would make sense. No, that's a good point, Paul.
Yeah.
It goes also into the theory of, and Heather had brought it up too, with the whole like, once you dive into the paranormal, we become the paranormal. So in a way, is it like we're almost suggesting the phenomenon, like almost like in our brain before we even say it, we're thinking it. So is that still suggesting it kind of thing? I don't know.
I think it's a huge part of it. It's the way that the human brain works.
The psychology behind that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's important to determine what's a real experience versus what's your brain making up. Because I know I've seen shadows in the dark that I know it's my brain putting that together and processing that quickly and saying, hey, you have to be scared because it's trying to protect me. It's trying to push me out of that area. You know what I mean? That's what happens when your senses go away. When it's dark, your brain it's processing data in a way that it could with what's available to it. And it's like Gab was saying, that lizard brain kind of kicks in and says, hey, you're in danger. Get out of here. I'm going to process this. You're going to see it. But the thing that makes me question that is when you have a group of people that witness the same thing.
Or to see something different.
Still, they all witness
Right.
something. You know what I'm saying? You have the group experience, because we've talked about this before with their shadow creature or antlered shadow creature. Gab saw it on 2 legs. I thought it was on all 4s.
Yep,
The
exactly.
other guy that was with us, he agrees with what I saw.
That it was
So
on
yeah.
4s.
Yes, 2 people saw it the same way. We just talked to him recently, actually, after a bit of a hiatus, but I was thrilled to hear him explain what happened that night because it matches exactly what I experienced. And then you have Gabrielle who saw it differently. I think Heather had a suggestion for that, talking to Heather one time. She said it's a difference between the male energy and the female energy and how you experience things. So
Yeah, but also, okay, so with me and Stephanie, we can go into the same room and experience things completely different. And we are literally in the same energy. And I know she's picking up on the same thing. I know she is. But she'll have this completely different experience. And then we put it together, then it makes sense.
And I think that's too, like, they use like what's in our brain, almost like our registry and like our knowledge base, like archetypes almost. And they use that to then project to us. So you might see something different because you might interpret something different than the person next to you. So that could even explain why people see things differently.
Which is what I was going to say too, with what Heather had done for all of us with the whole DNA thing, which is was the theory I was trying to think about a long time ago. Is how come we'll just say this, like you guys were saying a little bit ago, was this person saw it this way, this person didn't see it this way. I had a guest on about spook lights where they were with this other person where he couldn't see the spook lights around him, but other people could.
Yep.
So it made me start to wonder, is it something involving DNA, or is it literally how, should I say, maybe open-minded we are? And what I mean by that is, like, the more open-minded we are into the subject of believing, yes, there is, in fact, weird shit out there, that's when we can start to see more or accept it more. Maybe that would be the appropriate term. And then there's maybe others where they're still not too sure how to look at it, and maybe that's why they can't really see it in or feel it in the way of like how we could take away from it, like how Heather and Stephanie were just talking. I don't know. I've been running with that idea for a while too, because one thing I would notice when Heather had sent me this thing that she did, one of the lines that really caught me was like forest lines. Always looking at the forest line of the wood, basically, and that kind of made me realize that's interesting because every time I go, whether it be for a drive, if I'm driving or if I'm in the passenger seat or whatever, I'm always watching the forest line or maybe see whatever, whether it be deer, turkey, but I'm always watching the forest line. Now, why is that though? But maybe in that aspect, maybe I'll see something that, let's just say, Heather might not see if she was driving with me. So interesting, because maybe somebody could see something that somebody else is basically not realizing it's there because it's either A, too late, or they just literally can't see it. And
Yeah.
to go back into that phenomenon too, where maybe it's only allowing you to see it and not everybody else around you. So yeah, it makes me think about it in that sort of aspect as well, that it might be our DNA. Kind of with you about pulling it from our perspective of how we look at life in general, or however we look at anything.
Yeah, it goes back to your brain's wired a certain way, and whether or not you're sensitive to it or not. And I think like you said before, I think we could rewire our brains if we're going out and we're looking for it. I feel like it takes notice that you're looking for it, it being whatever the phenomena is, and it looks back at you. It says, "Hey, I could see that you noticed us. You're interested in us. I'm gonna let you know that I'm interested in you."
Or we're going to back off because I'm not interested to show you yet. Yeah,
Right.
it can go either way. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just interesting how that works. Like you guys are talking about that entity, that antler entity. It just makes me wonder, they must be allowing it if you're seeing that much of the details, or maybe not all the details. And maybe that's why they're trying to find that, I don't know if I want to say trust, but in a way it is. It's like when we first all chatted, we all got to feel each other out. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on every time when we walk
Yep.
into a place or woods.
Yeah. You have to build up that rapport.
Yes.
So how much do you think you put into your own paranormal experiences? I always wonder, like, how much of it is just a reflection back at you? What you fear, what you don't fear, or what you need to learn at the time? I think that's ultimately that's where I am in my own evolution is, okay, I've seen some shit. What is it? The more I look at it, I'm like, it's me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's me.
Gab just had
I just did that the other day.
went down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
We had a guest who reached out to come on the podcast. So I started listening to other things that they had done to get like a feel of what to expect. And I listened to this one podcast, and then I listened to other podcasts in the same, like other episodes in the same podcast. And I messaged him and I'm like, you got to listen to this episode. And we were listening to it together. And I was like, oh no, it's our brain. Our brain is spirits. There's no ghosts. It's just our brain. And I was like, I'm come through the other side. I was like, I don't believe in ghosts anymore. I'm done. And then I sent him like the gif of the little girl screaming.
I had to tell my friend off the proverbial cliff there on that one.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just our brains.
Even if it is your brain, it's weird enough that your brain's doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
But that could be the cause of medications, or what, could it be something
Yeah.
more?
Well, yeah.
That's why most groups, I don't know about all of them, but sometimes some of the questions, like the important questions is, hey, before we do this house investigation for you to see what's going on, we just need to know, are you taking any medication? Are you good in your brain?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
It is. No, it is. It
Does
is.
anyone have any like psych diagnoses,
Exactly.
mental
Yeah.
health conditions that you need to know about, and where maybe they shouldn't be in this position?
I feel bad going out
Yeah.
with people that are going through grief.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Me
whether
too.
it's like personal loss, I feel bad bringing those people. I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? But grief, I think your mindset really plays into
Your experience.
your experience.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Whatever you're feeling and however you go into that environment is going to be throwing it back right at you in
Yeah.
one form or another. It's always good. I guess to answer how Heather would word in this question. So anytime I go anywhere, I try to throw it out into the universe that I'm not looking for anything. If it happens, it happened, basically. If it does happen, then I will basically try to interact with it and maybe see what happens with that. Or sometimes, even if I do interact with it, it's only maybe just a couple things and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, why is the Like, why am I getting EVPs on a voice recorder, but then I throw out a spirit box and there's nothing? Or how come it's setting off the Mel meter, but it's not setting off the light one? Like, what? Why? What's the difference? Is it because they just think it's gonna hurt them? Is it just something else? I don't know.
Yeah, and then I think the other part of that too is I have experienced sentient moments where I'm like, Stephanie and I both have that where it's literally giving us directions, like go here, go there, do this. It's very explicit directions. Do you want to talk about that stuff? Because that happens a lot with us.
Yeah, I think part of it is going in with curiosity and being curious. So then if there is some sort of direction, allowing yourself to follow that to see what happens and not expecting anything to happen. Because, yeah, we have had investigations where it's go downstairs. I'm like, okay, why go downstairs? But we go downstairs and then we run into the people that we need to get into a specific room to have this experience. Or you run into somebody else or something that you need. And there's no way that you could predict that happening. The timing is just too synchronistic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something else going on that is directing that movement.
Yeah, I'm really big into the synchronicity stuff.
Yeah, I just wonder how it happens though, because it did happen to me this weekend too. So we're in this room with these people and they got all their equipment out and we're sitting on the floor and the room suddenly gets that dead feeling where it's like nothing's gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that happens and I'm like, okay, something's gonna go down because it just got real quiet real quick, right? And so somebody's spirit box goes, go downstairs. And I went, oh, here we go. And I literally said, here we go. And everyone looks at me like, why? It just said go downstairs. And I know in my head, I'm like, until I go downstairs, nothing's going to happen in this room. Because no one else is going to go downstairs. And I'm going to end up being the one that goes downstairs. So then nothing happens for a little while. It says go downstairs again. And I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs. Let's go downstairs. So some people follow me downstairs and then see, and this is where I get confused with it because I didn't go straight downstairs. I went downstairs and then I got stuck on there's 6 floors. I got stuck on one of the floors talking to somebody. I had to run into this person and then someone was like, we should go to the cave. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where the cave is. So we had to ask somebody where the cave was. Then we had to go to the cave, which is on the other side of this hotel, right? Go to the cave. We don't like the cave. That's not where we're supposed to be. Cave feels weird, gross, yucky. We hear some feminine voices though, and that's weird. You sure you don't want to stay in the cave? No, we don't want to go to the cave. Okay. Turn back around, go to the other side of the hotel to get to the place where we're going to go, which is on the first floor, which is a cave with limestone and water. It's a speakeasy, but it's in the actual limestone. This hotel is butted up against limestone, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's go down there. We've never been down there. So I'm sitting there. And then I sit next to this girl, however, never talked to me before. And she's really cool. So we start talking because I'm getting all this information. And then I had a vision about the hotel a week before. And I said something about it. But I didn't tell her because I didn't know her. But then she starts to tell me the information about this vision that I had. And I was like, that's the exact information that I needed to validate what I saw. And she had seen it because she was down there doing her own little session. And she was like, this is what I got. And I was like, that's exactly the information that I need for me to know like what the next step is with this vision and why I got it. And I was thinking, so much stuff had to happen for me to get downstairs. Then I had to do this whole loop-de-loop to get to that one spot so that she could tell me in 2 sentences what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it got even weirder because then this historian person that does tour guides in 2 hotels. She comes down and she's, hey, what's up, you guys? And I'm like, hey, I just got this information from her about this area. Is this true? Tell me the history behind it. And then she gave me the rest of the information.
Wow.
And I was like, how, like, that is some crazy ass time dilation shit right there. And that's not the first time that's happened. So me and Stephanie always, if anything says go somewhere, do something, talk to somebody, we do it. Because, but what is that sentience? Is that us just looking for answers and then projecting it out into the world? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get into the whole future me and past me and all that. Because
Yeah, exactly.
We've gotten into going back and listening to Ask the Sessions from a year or 2 years ago. And then, like, the message is completely clear now that you have context from the future. You know what I mean? So that's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens to us all the
Yeah.
time where we,
Yeah.
in the moment, we're like, this makes no sense. 3 years later, it makes sense.
And speaking of directions, I'll try to make this really quick. We did an Estes session at our house in the middle of the night, and we got something along the lines of the meat, don't bring the meat,
Oh God, don't bring the meat, it'll spoil.
something, whatever. And then
Why would we bring meat, first of all?
it's weird. This will pay off. And then we got directions that were like the road, further up the road, there's a sign, it's upside down.
Yeah.
There's a intersection across from the sign. So anyway, we get that and we're like, wow, that seemed, we had really specific instructions, but it doesn't mean anything. So I don't remember if was it a week after, maybe? It was the next day or it was the next day. It was the next day. So the next day we go to our outdoor area and we get out of the car and we're starting to walk into the woods. And the first thing we see is a turkey carcass hanging on a tree. Okay.
Mm.
So we don't need to bring the meats already there, whatever. Take that however you want.
Yep.
Anyway, we're walking further up the road and there's a lot of stuff that they're doing up there. They're moving land around a lot. There's a stream nearby that was flooding and they're trying to alleviate that problem. So we're walking up the road and we're trying to think like, all right, we got something last night. Let's look around the environment, see if any of this makes sense. Sure enough, we find a posted sign. The top nail had come off the posted sign and the posted sign fell down upside down. Right across from the posted sign was an area they cut into the bank to get across the stream. That's pretty much that story. And we just thought it was weird. It meant something to us. I don't know if we're reaching or what, but.
No, you're not reaching. I'm just wondering, what is that? Is that sentience? Is that time dilation? Or
I don't know.
is that our future selves telling us something? Or it could just be our higher selves, like cluing us in. But what is?
Now we go back, 2-3 weeks ago to the same place.
Yeah.
And in that area where the sign was, across the water, there is, we don't know what's there, but it looks like rocks at the very least.
Looks like
possibly,
benches. Yeah.
And so we had gone back, it was snow. There was like definitely a foot of snow on the ground. So you're not like stepping on branches, like you're really quiet walking. So we're standing there and we're walking out and we start hearing noises. So we stop. It was like something was breaking, like they're in a branch, like a tree, like skinny trees. It was like snapping them.
Yep.
And you could hear it like moving, then snapping.
And rocks.
And then
clapping.
moving. Yeah, there were like rock sounds and trees snapping. And we're like, what is going on? And thankfully, like, we have the snow. So if there is something, it's going to be easy to see, but we couldn't see anything. And then we ended up just leaving because we were like, what is going on? And you're like, it can't be a bear because how is a bear breaking something? And there's not something on the ground that it's stepping on because there's a foot of snow.
We had a clear view too. We couldn't see anything. But
Yeah,
we had a clear view right through. So it's odd.
Yeah.
But
More sounds like something a Bigfoot would do.
That's what
Yeah.
I
Rock
said.
flapping and
Right.
snapping.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was gonna ask is, before you said the rock clapping, but with the trees, then now that it's getting warmer out, it's not like the wood from being swelled up making the crackling sound. Like, or
There was definitely shuffling going on with it too, like something was walking around. We just couldn't see anything. We couldn't see a big animal or something. We just couldn't see it.
and that goes back to what I was saying about the DNA thing. It's like, how come some of us may not see it, but then somebody else could actually see it?
Yeah.
So I'll give you guys an example. I don't know if I shared it with Heather on her podcast or whatever, or chats in general, but so I have this weird thing where if you were to talk to me about the paranormal, I will gladly say, no doubt that there's something strange going on with the paranormal side. But as soon as the cryptid side comes into play with me, I'm like more skeptical in that area than I am. Yeah. And now, is that because maybe that's where my brain is trying to be more open-minded about everything and the skepticism that comes along with it? So maybe that's why it's not allowing me to see it? Or is it just like, again, my DNA programmed to maybe not have that sort of experience, if that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Because when I've been out in the woods, I don't know how many times I can say if I did have some sort of weird cryptid thing going on, maybe because of the fact that I'm part deaf, it wasn't clicking to me. Mm-hmm. So maybe the damn cryptid is like, well, screw you, then I'm not going to try to get your attention now, blah, blah, blah. But then if I go back trying to think, like, with all the times I'm out there, I don't recall any sort of weird sound or anything, but then again, it maybe goes back to how we were describing with, if it's pulling from our brain beforehand, maybe that's why I haven't had a cryptid encounter yet.
Yeah. I think it's harder to accept a cryptid too.
Physical, that's why.
Right. Yeah.
Not just that, but I also think, I'll just say community, where like when it comes to the Bigfoot thing, you got one side that's, oh yeah, it's flesh and blood, and then you got this other one where it's the woo. They can cloak and go into portals and stuff. And now, when I talk to everybody, people that believe it's portals, it can be this and that, I always go back to the example, which I can finally say now with more clarity, that there was this photo that used to be going around from Wisconsin, from this open field during the snow time, where it tracks leading out into this open field, snow on the ground, woods in the background, but they're quite a ways away. But this track stopped in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And so where did it go? I bring up the counteracting question that some people claim that whatever cryptid is doing this, they're smart enough to try to backtrack into their own track they already made. Okay, that sounds like they could do that, but if it's no, let's say for the example of this photo and the chat here, you're going to have that double print no matter what.
Yeah.
But so even if we were to do that, we could go test the theory out in the snow right now. Yeah. Your prints are not going to be perfect. No. If you were to do that, let's just face it. So unfortunately, when it comes to me on this end, I'm in the boat of there's got to be more to them than just flesh and blood. I don't know. Maybe when and if I have my own encounter in the near future, maybe that's when my perspective of this can be a little bit more broader, if I can say that.
So, you got to witness. You have to witness it to process it and see where you stand. Yeah.
Yeah. I always make the joke that where the footprints end, that's where the alien spaceship came and took the But if you're you're looking at a flesh and blood creature, right? Where are they living? Where are they getting their food? Where do they bury their dead? Why have we never found any remains from any cryptids? So every single one of them is doing something to not only hide from us consistently, but also remove every single instance of any one of their members that has passed on, so we never find them. Like, nothing does that. Like, you find skulls and bones and carcasses all the time in the woods of animals that we know exist. So how then are cryptids able to do things that these animals can't? So they have to have some type of paranormal aspect.
Yeah, they got the blippies.
Yeah.
They blip in and they blip out.
The
Blippies.
That goes back to some people that will say, have you ever seen a dead bear?
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking that while you guys were going back and forth here.
Yeah, I know. But somebody is definitely going to throw that in no matter what. Have you
I've
seen a dead bear?
Yeah, because your uncle hunted.
No, I've seen it on the side of the road.
Pennsylvania.
Okay, so who dragged it out? Or did it get hit by a car or a truck?
Probably.
Yeah. I guess that would be the only time you would see a dead bear. But otherwise,
Yeah, I've never encountered one in a walk in the woods.
no, me either. And I think that's what people were trying to get at. But I think, like, the most I've ever seen is, like, maybe a deer skull. But it wasn't from the kill site. It was moved from the kill site. Or maybe nature basically devoured the rest of it before this did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't validate that. I just know that the skull was the only thing I had found.
Yep.
But of course, when I was little and that happened, of course I'm like, where's the rest of it? But I'm not going to go looking for it. Nope.
Just based on my own research, and again, this is just on my own research, and I have not researched everything, so there's a lot to be left by the wayside. But I just feel, or just what I've experienced, is that there's clusters, like places that have phenomenon. They have all the phenomena. It's just not just one phenomenon.
Yep.
If you have ghosts in an area, you're going to have cryptids, and you're going to have UFOs. They're all the same phenomenon. I think it's just how people experience it or how they witness it. Or I've considered that maybe the UFOs look for those places. Or because whatever is there, there's something important there or I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out.
It's like a beacon to them, and they're just like, we go here.
What's just an alien?
And that, oh God. Have you guys seen that new documentary from David Paulides?
It's on my, like, what's next kind of thing on when they suggest things on Amazon.
Have you guys also maybe watched, it's on YouTube, so you can watch this one for free, but he did a segment for A Flash of Beauty, and what caught me to watch this video was you know how if you hover over a video for so long, it starts to play like a little clip of it? The first thing out of this little clip before I actually said, okay, now I'm curious, was David Paulides opened up the video and said, I'm not going to say in quote because I really don't remember how he worded it, but he basically was trying to bring it across as, well, one thing I find interesting, because that's how David usually talks, and what I find interesting, and then he goes, what if Bigfoot is a fallen angel? And I said, what? So, of course, I had to play it because that just sounds ridiculous. But after watching that little segment and listening to a few other things, it just makes you go, huh. And that's all I'm going to say because it's just that odd. And it's just, at the same time, it just goes, but it makes sense if you look at the woo side of Bigfoot.
I've heard there's a theory that the Bigfoot are just the leftover Nephilim.
And a lot of people would say, no, they're not Nephilim.
I know, but that's a prevailing theory that they're the leftovers of what the Nephilim.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
I know.
Yeah, it's just,
But yeah,
we have UFO people, we have Bigfoot people, we have paranormal people, and there's hardly ever any crossover, but I'm like, why? Because, like, to me, It's all the same.
Yeah.
When you have one, you're going to have the other. So why are we parsing it out like that? Why are we not studying it as one complete theory? Because it is.
Nobody wants to look at it like that, though, I don't think. Because they want it. So when you start talking about the woo, right, for the Bigfoot side, once you start talking about that, nobody wants to listen to you because they want to keep it in the flesh and blood. So that way the scientists will look at it. Because once you start talking paranormal, nobody wants to look at it. Because it's no longer flesh and blood, I'm just going to say, because I don't know any other way to end it, that talk. But I also heard recently, some scientists are actually looking at the theory of everything, whether it be paranormal or not. So I think the way we talk about it and bring certain diagrams up or theory that actually sound logical enough that it gets to sound legit, then I think they could maybe appreciate that woo side more. But for right now, they just want flesh and blood, for sure.
Yeah.
I watched a podcast or listened to a podcast. I don't remember what it was, but they had the theory that they were like connecting like Bigfoot activity and poltergeist activity.
Oh, yeah.
And saying poltergeist activity is just Bigfoot activity inside. Like how there's such similarities. And I was like, that's interesting.
You know, you're talking about the rocks. They say that the rocks that Bigfoot will throw, when people pick them up, they're often warm.
Yeah.
And that's also common with poltergeists, like objects that are manipulated through poltergeist activity. They're often warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that psychokinesis is poltergeist. Like, I really do believe that it's us. We're doing it, but then that leads into then Bigfoot is us. So what would
you just can't full circle. Yeah.
There's an excellent book out there. I think it's called The Poltergeist Phenomenon or something. I would look that up.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. It's a good book. But that's the whole thing. And then what is that, like an evolutionary thing? So that means Bigfoot is us or something that is like us. And that is that flesh and blood or is that not? Because, or are they just the side of ourselves that is just predominantly it would be what? The more psychic side of ourselves? Right?
Well, I mean, we can all be psychic. It's just a matter of how open, as I can say that, maybe, to it. If we're, I think somebody was trying to mention it before. I forget who was mentioning it, but like, how do I want to word it? If you start to recognize it, you want to push forward with it. But the moment that you subside it, then it starts to, it's like that lower vibration. You're not with it anymore. It's being suppressed, I guess would be a good way. Whereas once you notice it, you can open yourself more to it, to then allow it to be more of a higher frequency, I think is how it would work. Heather, you might know the better answer than me.
Everything I think about is just in my head. It's theory. And then I look for it. I'm always like, well, let me find something to justify this stupid thought. And I go down rabbit holes and I forgot what I was thinking about in the first place. But in my mind, the more you interact with the phenomenon, the more you start to mirror the phenomenon. And then after a while, if you go down too many rabbit holes, all you're doing is just interacting with yourself. And that's freaky to me because I've done it. Because especially with synchronicity, the more you look into synchronicity and the more you follow synchronicity, the more you're creating it. So at what point are you now the conductor of the synchronicity? You know what I mean? You may not start that. You might just start as the passenger, right? Just witnessing the phenomenon. Yeah. You might start.
Go back to this, basically.
Right.
Go back to this.
You might be witnessing the phenomenon, but then somewhere you become the phenomenon. And so I don't know. And that, to go back to what I was saying before, when we have these things, go down the stairs, do this, look for the person in the red. It's very specific. Who is telling us that? We did it through talking board. We've done it through different spirit boxes. Sometimes it's through another person, like just a medium saying something. But who is that person channeling? You know what I mean? Like, where is it coming from? Because it's so specific. And then once you have to follow in order for the thing to happen, so many other things have to line up. So who is the conductor? Or is it just the magician like the Wizard of Oz? There's somebody pushing a lot of buttons in the background, but who is that?
But then that goes back into, for all of us, when we maybe first had our first experiences, back to even what you're saying. Who were they conducting it? Why were they conducting that then to make us become more curious into the subject, whereas it will happen to everybody. And that's why we got the people that are like, oh, you're full of fucking shit. Yeah. And then you get people like us where we're just like, okay, remind me to keep my mouth shut around you because I can't talk about it to you. But then you got people like all of us here where we can actually talk about it. So that goes back to what you're saying about the conductor. It's like, then who's doing that? Why are they doing that to us when we weren't seeking it? It just came to us.
See, I have a problem with that too, because if you talk to any investigators who are really in this and who really get into it, not your people that are like, oh, fun blinky lights, but people who are like really have been in the scene for a long time and don't stop, they will always tell you, yeah, it started when I was a kid. Always. And then that kind of freaks me out a little bit too. And it's always around 7 or 8, which freaks me out because there's all these like very strong consistencies with it. And then I'm like, what does that mean? Who's pulling the strings? Stephanie, did you have an experience around 7 or 8?
What kind of experience?
Like any kind of paranormal experience?
I was just thinking about that for a minute. I was just thinking, it was like 6 or 7 for me when I started to notice some stuff. Probably, yes. So like maybe 7, I would say for myself. 95 would be about 7 years old. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking about that from what you were just saying about 7 or 8 years old.
Her kid is talking to her real quick. But yeah, that's usually it. Or it's a traumatic event around that. It can, if it's later on in life, like I've talked to people that it starts to happen later on in life, and it's always some traumatic event.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if anybody's ever experienced, sorry, this is a social worker in me. I wonder if anybody has ever researched like the correlation between people experiencing paranormal activity and what their ACEs score is, their adverse childhood experience score. I wonder if anybody's ever connected that to see if there's some type of correlation between those two things. That'd be interesting.
Not that I've known.
Right?
Yeah.
But did you have anything happen to you around that time?
So when we did the interview with Josh, we had talked about near-death experiences.
Yeah, I don't remember. Remind me. I'm sorry, I was asleep right now.
Yeah. So when I was 3 or 4, I almost drowned. And then, but around 7 or 8, that's like 2nd grade, my parents were divorcing. So there was the trauma around that. But I do remember sitting in class, and I don't know, we were doing some activity where you had to move around to the different chairs. And, you know, there's always like the outcasted weird kid that nobody likes. I remember girls like sitting in his chair and like spraying themselves down, right? Like they were pretending they had Lysol or whatever. They were clearing themselves from the cooties. And I remember seeing him. And I guess maybe that's when like my empathy kicked in, or that sense, because I could see like the mental distress and emotional distress in him of what they were doing and how they didn't acknowledge that what they were doing was affecting him. I remember that.
Yeah, it's like a coping mechanism, empathy, because you dealt with that, right? In a way, and it's you looking at me here, wondering where I'm going with this, but you build that sense of empathy like greater and greater with the more trauma you've gone through. It's almost like not a coping mechanism, but what's the word I'm looking for here? Help me out here, Gab.
I don't know, but I see where you're going with it.
It's
like some more.
Because it's always trauma. There's always trauma.
There's always
Yeah.
But it's
You're trying to guess what's coming next because for other people,
keep yourself
that's-
safe to
Yes.
know how to react before it happens.
That's it. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, plan it. Like when people recognize people's walking patterns and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so coming down the hall and they seem like they're in a good mood. So maybe it's safe. Like people who can do things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think like you're talking about that kind of stuff
Yeah.
where you're like, when people consider like people to be empathic, what they're really talking about is people who are able to do that. People who have had learned how to read their environment to protect themselves. And when someone is a true empath, they are clairsentient. So there is like that difference between the two.
Yeah, there is a correlation between hypervigilance and psychic abilities because you start to become predictive when you're hypervigilant. But it's interesting for you, Stephanie, because you become more empathic, which makes you like super psychic in that like feeling, empathy, presentiment, knowing things in a way.
It sounds like she can feel energy around her in a way.
Yes.
The
or
energetic sensibility, I guess.
you can also like
Clairsentience.
Clairsentient, yeah.
but you also take on the personalities of people sometimes too from that empathy, right?
Like a mirror image of the person, throwing it back at them.
I can. Yeah. So some of the work that I've been doing is like acknowledging like that boundary between that emotional bleed that kind of happens between me and other people. Because like doing mediumship work or something like that, that's usually what I pick up on first is the feeling and the emotion of the person who has passed or how that relates to whoever's asking the question. And even when we did the seance years ago, that's what I picked up on was like the emotion and the feeling in the body.
It can be a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've gotten really good at knowing when it's my emotion, when it's something else.
But we do a lot of, are you okay, Stephanie? Are you okay? And she's, I'm fine. Like it worked 30 seconds ago. She's like, I'm good. And like turning it on and off. Because it's not her.
Yeah.
She knows it's not her. It's Switty.
Yeah.
So to your question, like paranormal as you think about paranormal, no, I don't know if I had an experience like that. It was more, I think, a trauma response to my parental situation.
That's very classic too, though. It's like that's when the experiences start to happen. That's where whatever you're doing, that's when it kicks in. But you're right. There always seems to be like something traumatic that happens beforehand or around at the same time.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I was saying
Uh-oh.
it's usually the paranormal starts to happen around the trauma around that same time. That's that second, third grade thing. But there is a trauma aspect to it. There's always some kind of trigger brings it in full force.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah,
again,
I can definitely vouch on that.
yeah, but who's the conductor then? Who are we creating these? So this is where my brain goes. So is the trauma put upon us to force us to awaken? Do we choose it?
So, I don't remember where I heard it, but I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard it. The theory that, like, before we're born in this world, we supposedly already made, like, this contract deal. So, maybe that's what it is.
That's why I asked the question, because do you believe in that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't. I think that we come in with like kind of an idea. It's like when you start a project, you have an idea of what you want and it always changes. I always feel like that. But then when you have these like things that happen to everybody who is in this field and you're like, wait a minute, I've heard this story before 100 times because everybody told the same story, right? when I was this
Right.
age, this weird thing happened, or the near-death experience, or this tragic thing happened, and then all of a sudden I'm awakened to this other world. But who makes that decision? Are you making that decision? Is Future making the decision? Or is this great man in the sky making the decision? The conductor? Who is it?
The universe, yeah.
The universe?
I don't like to think that everything is pre-planned out for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
I
how much do we have control over?
hate that idea.
We're all in a simulation. Come on now. Stop.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring it up, but I knew someone was going to say it.
You had to start it.
Sorry.
You're like, you push the button in the simulation. I would like the trauma paranormal package, please.
And we can also touch on that in a way of also, then how come certain people that, if it is this deal, contract before we are born, then how come, what's the point of getting born then if we're leaving, I'm trying to think of an example. We always hear sometimes where babies are born early and then they pass away because they just weren't developed enough. What was the point of that then? We got people that are dying really young. What's the point of that then? What is, I guess what I'm saying is, what is the point then if we're just coming in and only getting so much out of life before we are taken away? And with the near-death experiences at time, I feel like that is the only way to truly unlock a part of ourselves that we weren't giving ourselves fully into being unlocked at the time. So in a way, it's like the universe saying, okay, since you're not reading the signs here, we're just going to give you this near-death experience to then hopefully make you understand and awaken more, as you were saying, Heather. I don't know. I don't want to say this was a near-death experience for me, but it was still weird, and why I survived it and how I survived it is weird. I know I text you guys it, but I guess for this conversation. So in 2006, I was at like a swimming hole around here, and there was a person in front of me, and it had rained the night prior. So the rocks are slippery to get to this water hole. How come then, if this is the case, if this is all laid out, planned for us, how come he was able to get down in one piece, but then when I tried to do it, I was the one to slip and basically turn 180 degrees in midair and land on nothing but shallow water and rock. But then I only get a sprained ankle and a couple cuts out of it. But I landed on the shallow water and the shallow rocks like I was sitting in a lawn chair. Like my arms literally, like they were on the armrest, and my feet were literally out like I was just laying on a lawn chair. Just sitting. But I'm talking about like I don't know, 10 to maybe 15 feet high up, like boulder that where you, like I was saying, you have to climb down to get to the swimming hole. That just makes no sense to me. But one thing I do remember is when I was spinning in the 180 movement, I do remember that it felt like it was almost like slow motion, which was odd, before I landed. So at that point in time, that's where I always wondered if it was like my guardian angel or maybe my father, because he had passed in 2003 and this is 2006. Maybe he was there to shield me from taking that much damage. I don't know. I still wonder to this day how I was able to survive it. And if anybody's wondering, no, I have not been back there because it's not like the PTSD from it, but it's just, what was it? Hurricane Irene destroyed that place pretty good, so not what it used to be. So that's why.
I have a question for you, Paul.
Okay.
Is it about the Goosebumps tattoo?
No, but I don't think it was tattoo. The question is, how do you think that being hard of hearing or partially deaf kind of works into or affects the work that you're doing within the paranormal field?
It's almost like taking your vision or your hearing away completely. If you lose something, you unlock that whatever more. It becomes higher. I forget the word right now. Like if I was completely part deaf or whatever, it's like then should I be able to see differently. If I was completely blind, I should be able to hear, what the hell do they call that? Oh my God, the sound echo. Oh my God. That's escaping my mind right now where what I'm trying to say. Almost like an echolocation, I think, is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. Like my right ear is worse than my left ear. So usually I always will be like, because I can't understand what somebody's trying to say, I'll lean in with my left ear more than my right, because this is my good side. There was a time where somebody was talking to me to my side here, but because I wasn't seeing them talking to me, they thought I was ignoring them until I was like, oh, you're actually just trying to talk to me. Yeah, you have to be in front of me kind of thing. You can't just be talking and expect me to just turn around because I'm not like a normal.